Alexander has been the U.S. Education Secretary, the University of Tennessee president, and he's the only Tennessean ever popularly elected to both governor and United States senator. Lamar, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Fred. Great to talk with you.
I'm going to start out by putting you on the spot, my old friend. Which do you like best, being governor or senator?
Right now, I like being senator. I wouldn't want to be governor right now, Fred. It's too hard. But I loved being governor. There are not many of us who've had a chance to be both who wouldn't prefer governor, because you set the agenda, you make things happen. It's a terrific job.
But you said something in jest that I imagine is very true, though. It is harder, isn't it?
I think it is harder, particularly with all the federal regulation of the states. Increasingly, the so-called state budget is federal dollars. So you're down there, for example, with a Medicaid program, and you're trying to manage your budget, and you have all these people in Washington telling you what to do, but not sending you the money to do it.
Yeah. Well, listen, you made quite an impact over the weekend on the talk shows and so forth, and I wanted to ask you, didn't the reception that the Obama speech received differ a bit than the one you got back in 1991 when President George Bush made a similar speech? My recollection is that you were hauled up before a committee to justify that.
Well, they tried to haul me. Actually, I was out of town, so I sent the deputy secretary. But you're right. I mean, President Bush, the first, made a speech on drugs and encouraging kids not to use drugs, and the Democrats jumped all over him, said it was partisan, wanted him to pay back the $27,000 it cost to produce it, and I thought that was a mistake. I thought it was good for the president to talk to the students about drugs. President Reagan spoke to the students right after he was elected, and he talked about our country. The problem we have with the Obama speech was it started out talking about President Obama and with lesson plans about getting the kids to help him do his job, and either he or somebody in the White House got way off base on that. And with all the Washington takeovers we've been having, a lot of people thought, oh, here they go, they're going to take over our school kids as well.
Right, and they had every reason, I think, to be concerned about it, because I think it's with the president, it's all about credibility, and when you're moving everything in one direction. And you decide to make this speech practically on the eve of your real major speech on health care, then people wonder, what the political aspects of that are.
Well, they have a right to wonder about it. I mean, what I'm finding, people are very worried about this runaway government, everything moving to Washington, everything being taken over by Washington, then brought into the White House with all these czars. It's really kind of scary.
Well, you had a lot to say about these czars, and you raised some real interesting questions about the propriety of them. In the first place, I don't recall anything ever touching what we're seeing today. We've got a shadow government out there of, I don't know how many of them now, in the 30s, I guess, of people who do not have to go through the Senate confirmation process, who evidently have policy functions like we've never had before. We've had presidential advisors. You were one of them one time, I guess, but nothing like this. Have you?
No, I think this is unprecedented. There have always been some people in the White House, and some of them, there's 6 of the so-called czars who have Senate confirmation, like you could call the drug czar. Mm-hmm. That's been there a long time. Mm-hmm. But according to Political newspaper, there are 29. And what has happened is that the president is simply moving into the White House staff people who make the decisions about managing the government on the biggest possible issues like energy and health care. And that means they can't go through the confirmation process and let us ask them questions here in the Congress, which we're supposed to do. It means they can't be called up after they're in to testify because they plead that they're the president's staff person. It also means that the one ability we have here to get the executive's attention, which is the power of the purse, is they can thumb their nose at the appropriations process. So for an administration that promised an era of openness, it's just one more example of taking over more functions and getting it as close to a central authority in the White House as possible.
It's inconsistent with our system of checks and balances. It can't get any more basic than that as far as the Constitution's concerned, could it?
No, it couldn't. I'm reading James K. Polk's diary. I'm probably the only one in the country reading it right now. But President Polk had a private secretary, and that was it. And he had a cabinet of about 6 people, and all the people in the government worked for the cabinet. And he met with them twice a week and discussed all the major issues. Think how different it is today.
And he went down as one of the better presidents than most historians ask.
Correct.
What's going to happen with regard to the health care debate, Lamar?
It depends on what the president says Wednesday night, Fred. What I hope he says is that I've heard you, let's start over and let's focus on cost. And I hope he also says let's stop trying to bite off more than we can chew. We don't do comprehensive very well. Let's go step by step in the right direction. There's several things we can agree on to lower costs, and we need to get started. And I hope he says, I'm going to clear the decks and make this my principal issue until it gets done. The president can't just go along with 34 different bright ideas and 29 czars and try to do everything at once, or he won't get anything done.
Do you think he's in too deep politically to pull back to a place that he might get some bipartisan support?
Well, I hope not. But it's possible. I mean, so far he hasn't really tried to get bipartisan support, which is very puzzling. I mean, either he doesn't want to do it or doesn't know how to do it.
Didn't think he needed it.
Probably.
Now he does.
Now he does.
Thank you, Lamar. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it.